funny jokes with your basically heavens.
All right, welcome everybody to Now That's Debatable. Got a new episode coming at you now, featuring two special guests. We got Terrell and we got Uncommentary on with us. Before we get kicked off, I'm actually gonna pass it over to Terrell to give a plug to Relic Media, who's been so kind to take us under their wing. I'm gonna get our faces up on the screen. I'm not using my face, not for any other reason than my computer doesn't handle it well when there's a whole bunch of guests and me streaming my video. But gonna kick it off, and then we'll get intro to the episode and get this thing started.
All right, so welcome everybody. Welcome to this. We're doing a mashup episode of the Now That's Debatable podcast and the Quotes and Mirrors podcast, both under Relic Media. Subscribe to Relic Media, because if you don't, then you'll go to hell.
If pretty serious threat.
Such a place.
Serious threats. That's in the book of opinions.
See, that was my lead in. That was my lead into the topic tonight.
Okay. As always, we got chat being monitored. It's up on the screen. If you have questions, comments, concerns, we'll be responding to that accordingly. But yeah, a little bit of a mashup episode where the two guests actually host their own podcast called Quotes and Mirrors, where they kind of break down, dissect, and kind of give feedback on quotes. And then, of course, our show, which is dedicated to debate and free thinking and free thought. So I thought we'd kind of mash that up with a quote. And the quote we're shaking on is God perfect? Is that correct?
Yep. So we're going to argue about a quote.
Hold on. Is it a question or is it a declaration? Which one is going on? Is it God is perfect, or is God perfect?
Well, it's probably depends on who you're asking.
Well, obviously, to be perfect, you have to exist. So I'm gonna.
And the debate. And you know, just so real quick, can somebody tell me how to change my name from you?
It doesn't say you. It says Terry Caldwell.
Yeah.
Okay. Because see, when we did ours, I actually showed. But still, I want to change it to Uncommentary. Can anybody do that?
I have your name as Uncommentary up on the screen if it helps. It's in big letters up under you. I have everybody's name underneath them. So on the stream itself, it shows that way. It's just under the service we're using, which is Google Meet. It's actually
just showing the stream to everybody, so you can see.
Okay, cool. Yep. Appreciate it. All right, I thought it was me.
So I guess so. No further ado. So is the quote "God is perfect"? It goes the same for, I guess, any sort of adjective that you would apply to God. God is good. God is amazing. God is great. Whatever. Perfect narrowed in on that because there's a little more for how technical the conversation could get. Perfect is just the best adjective for this. So the problem is that I have is when people say, you hear a lot of Christians, they'll say something like God is perfect, right? And it sounds like at least they believe that they're saying something like profound or something deep, or at least something that has some sort of meaning to it. And but when you get down to it, to me, it's just tautological. You're because when I get into the discussions like this, I ask, like, what is the standard for perfection? And they'll say it is God himself. If that's the case, then all you're doing is just stating the law of identity, which is like the first law of logic, right? A equals A, right? A thing is what it is. So if I am my own standard of measure, then I am perfect. Like literally anything could fit this. A banana, a serial rapist, a planet, this magazine, anything fits that. Because if God is the standard for his own measure, and this is the standards for his own measure, they are both perfect with respect to themselves.
So then what is the question?
So I guess so the question is like, what exactly do we mean when we say God is perfect? Is it just a tautology?
Is it just a what? I knew you was gonna do this. I didn't read all my books on ologies.
Yeah. Like, so, okay,
Tautology.
So are you just saying the same thing over? Are you just saying the same thing twice? Because like, so if God is his own, so like when we talk about like when we say that God is perfect, and we say like, okay, what is perfection? Like God is the measure of perfection. Okay. So you're just saying God is God. If God is his own standard for perfection. So I'll tell you this, for me.
Hold on. So what you're saying is that there is no adjective that applies to God. If God is just God. He's all encompassing, all powerful. So no specific adjective need be applied. We can just say God is God. Is that what you're saying?
For instance, let's look at it this way. It may help. When you say you have a perfect circle, you mean one that when you look at it doesn't have like wavy lines and, you know, it's complete. It doesn't have like weird angles in it, because obviously that wouldn't define what a circle is, right? So we could say a circle compasses 360 degrees and it is perfectly round all around the edge, and you could take a point in the center of the circle and it would be equidistant to all points outside of the circle. So when you say God is perfect, what are you saying?
Because you'd have to be referencing some sort of external standard. If you're not, then it's just a law of identity.
Well, okay, but again, so if you're referencing some external standard, what is determining, or should I say, what empowers that external standard to be that external standard?
Well, for me, the external standard is subjective. It just depends on whatever you want. So, like for instance, let's say I want a board that is 12 inches, right? Mm-hmm. If the board is exactly 12 inches, then it is perfect, because that is what I desire. If it's 11 inches, it's too short. If it's 13 inches, then it's too long, right?
Unless you want it to be 11 or 13 inches.
If I want it exactly, if I want it to be perfect. Yes, if I want it to be 11 inches and then it's exactly 11 inches, then it is perfect. That has meaning, right? Because we're applying it to a external standard. If you say the board is its own standard, then whatever length it is perfect. That is literally what they're doing with God. So,
but I mean, I'm sorry. Go ahead. My bad.
Oh, I was gonna say. So this is why, like you Christians can get away with saying stuff like, even when God does like really like evil or immoral stuff in the Bible, he's good regardless. He can like murder a bunch of people and drown babies and all that kind of stuff, but he's still good and he's still perfectly good because he's the standard of his own measure.
Okay, but hold on a second. So when you use the examples of drowning babies and these things that, you know, obviously come within context. Mind you, I'm not condoning drowning babies, but I'm just saying allowing certain accidents maybe that would happen that would involve the death of a child or something along those lines, right? Sure. So how does that contradict perfection, right? Because like, and then also if you're going to basically like we talked about the board, if you want a 12-inch board, if it's 12 inches and that's what you desire, then it's perfect.
Yeah.
But
12 inches is an external standard. So
okay, but I'm saying, like, okay, let me take it off of a tangible situation. Your wife is perfect for you. Is she not?
I mean, sure. I mean, I guess really close.
I mean,
yeah.
Okay. I'll bring it home.
I don't know what exactly you mean.
Okay. I'll bring it home. My wife is perfect for me.
Okay.
Is she perfect by a general standard? Is her perfection established by an external situation? If I'm that external situation, yes, but we're inside of this marriage. So she's perfect for me, right? Because she's everything that I want her to be. Sure. Right. So she doesn't have to be universal standard perfect. It doesn't have to be somebody on the outside looking in to see that it's perfect.
It's not whether or not it's universal, whether or not it's external. Right, because you had something in when you were looking for your wife, you had something in mind that you wanted, right? And so she perfectly embodies that. So you had a standard, and she embodies that standard, right?
All right. Hold on. I can't let you go forward on that only because she exceeds that standard.
Okay, sure. She exceeds the standard.
Because I'm not trying to do a brownie point. I'm telling you that, you know, when I met wifey, she ended up being more than I knew that I wanted.
Okay, sure. Okay, sure. Okay, but like, let's say like I were to change her properties, right, and then make her a liar or untrustworthy, all right, and take away her intelligence, right? So now you would say, or do something to her personality where now you're incompatible, right? Now she's not perfect for you, right? What we do with God is says, whatever He is, He's perfect.
Well, see though, now see when you say that, right? Because she's perfect for me, and she is all that I desire, right?
Yeah.
She's ever growing, she's ever evolving.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in a constant state of learning who she is, how she is, and so that scale is steadily sliding to encompass more and more. So she's not the same person that she was when I met her in 2004.
Of course.
But she's still perfect, and her flaws, she's perfect even more so in the fact that her flaws push me to be what she needs me to be when she can't be that. So it's as a result of those things that make her, because they make me better. And I, you know, in no other situation did that occur. Right. So in reference to God, I think as far as saying God is perfect, first of all, in my opinion, I'm going to have to preface things with that. Right. So believing in God, I need to know there's got to be something better than me, better than you, definitely better than TJ. All right, definitely. now, Double F, I don't know him that well. All right, but
Double F. That's your new name now, Double F.
Hey, let me know it. Let me back up. I tend to nickname cats, man. So let me know if I offend. I don't mean to offend.
Oh, don't worry.
Yeah,
I don't think it's possible.
All right, cool.
I really don't think it's possible to offend either one of them. Okay,
that's pretty dope, though. Yeah, that's pretty dope. You know what I mean? But what I'm saying is that
there has to be something that's better than us.
Right. It has to be something that's better than us. You know what I mean? And so that's go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, that definitely doesn't describe the God of Christianity. Like, if I was I'm raising a child now. If she was to become anything remotely close to the God I see in the Bible, like, I'd be pretty disappointed. I might be devastated if I saw that she was like obsessed with self-worship, that she had a proclivity towards genocide, and that she was sexist and allowed slavery, stuff like that. Like, to me, these wouldn't be things that I'd be proud of.
So let me ask you, so who or what do you feel is responsible for these things?
Oh, which one?
Any of them, because you don't believe in God. So he didn't actually do it because he didn't exist.
No,
he doesn't exist. So
I think
he didn't do it. So he now the one you read in the Bible, you're speaking of.
Yeah,
but,
sure.
Right. So, but technically, he couldn't have done it. Right. Okay. So
that was good. That was a good point. I'm curious to see where this goes with y'all. That was good. Okay.
I mean, fortunately, there's no good evidence for things like a global flood. So at least of the atrocities mentioned in the Bible, that's one that your God couldn't have committed.
What I will say is,
go ahead.
Well, so like, who's responsible like for like all those bad things that I listed,
or anything?
Like, well, I mean, ultimately, as far as I can tell, it's humans that are responsible for these things. They're even the stuff that we see that's in the Bible that's attributed toward God. Like, for instance, we have Moses. Remember when he killed the what's that group? he was like, save the virgins for yourselves, but kill all the babies and stuff.
Amalekites.
The Amalekites, yeah. So like, I don't believe it was God telling him to do that. Well, I don't believe that story existed first. That story's true, but if it were true, I don't believe God told him to do that. This was just a wicked man doing some very wicked things, and he used God as a justification for it.
Hey, hold on. Before y'all go any further, do y'all believe in the devil?
I don't.
Okay. Do you believe in heaven and hell?
No.
Okay, all right, cool.
You can't.
I know, but I was asking for context and for the people listening and watching. That's what I just wanted to.
Okay. Now, first, so you don't believe that God told Moses to do that? You believe he just did that in and of himself?
Assuming the story was true.
I don't believe that story. Yeah, I don't believe that story. But if it were, let's grant the story's true. Yeah, I don't. No good person.
But we can't grant the story true, because then that would mean that you just defended God, because Moses said that God told him to do it, but you said I don't believe God.
Assuming the outcome of the story is true.
Yes.
Like the actual. Let's assume that the Canaanites were mass enslaved in Egypt, and upon their release through the means of whatever means they got out of slavery from Egypt, that sometime during the 40 years thereafter, they came across this nation called the Amalekites, and they utterly destroyed them. Assuming that part is true. What I would say, and I think what he was saying would be that essentially there doesn't have to be a God involved for you to say that God commanded that. We're just saying that, like, essentially, if that story were true and it was told and Moses told the people of Israel that were the, etc. He just used God as his means of essentially controlling and using the people in his way. He said, God told me to do this, therefore we should do this. Right? So God doesn't have to be true for a guy to use God to control a people group.
Absolutely not. He manipulated faith.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, he manipulated people's either lack of understanding or trust in him as a leader or belief in a deity that may not exist. Any combination of all of that.
Okay, I got you. Go ahead, Josh.
Oh, I mean, Fasad pretty much explained it. I was like, so like just granting like all the non-supernatural facts of the story. Like I don't believe I don't believe any good character, whether it divine or not, would command such an act.
Okay, so when we think about God, when we think about God being perfect, and we think about what perfection is, are we only including pleasantries? Are we only including positives?
So if we're talking about like a person's character, yes, that is what you would include. But really? it depends on the context, right? So like if I was to talk about, like, for instance, this round, right? It's a 9mm. Right, maybe I should have done that because of YouTube.
Yo, why are you podcasting with so many weapons?
He's got like a desk full of weapons and a microphone, yo.
I'm like, yo, you know how happy I am that you're just on the other side.
Just point at your shirt or something, bro. You got other stuff. You got a headphones on.
Sure,
like, just use them as an example.
Okay, yeah. All right, sure. So if I was talking about my headphones, like, they perfectly fit my head, right? They could be like neutral properties that really has nothing to do with morality, right? So it's like I say, it's perfect because it's black, and so that's my favorite color. That's nothing. That's amoral, right? So that's not a moral property, but it's just my preference.
Okay.
So but generally if we're talking.
That you froze.
I don't know about the rest of y'all. It looked like you froze.
Nah,
you froze, Josh.
I froze. Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
Okay, you're coming back.
Okay, I was gonna say, normally if we're talking about someone's character and we're gonna say the character is perfect, we're talking about the positive things. Like if we're gonna say someone is perfectly evil or someone's perfectly a rapist or something like that, we wouldn't say that the character is perfect. So
well, I'm not saying that there's a such thing as that, but I'm just saying that to some degree, why would it not be subject to perspective? Right? Again, just speaking about your wife, where she's pregnant, she's perfect for me. Jesus, my wife is perfect for me, right? She's not perfect by anybody else's standards, but she's perfect for me.
Right,
Sure.
but you see
You
the
know,
caveat you have to make compared to like God, where you say God is just
that's not how they're describing God. Yeah, that's not how they're describing God. They're not saying God is perfect for you. They're saying God is perfect. Like God is perfection. Like this is sort of it's just sort of
Completely
immutable
without flaws.
Yes, this is sort of immutable property of his character. And I was like,
Right, but
I wouldn't consider that perfect if you go around murdering and drowning children and commanding rape and slavery and stuff. But if you're going to say that is perfect is whatever God is, then you're just describing the law of identity. That's all it is.
So for me, I'm gonna tell you something. So for me, I'm somewhere in between y'all and Terry. Because I am definitely a believer in God. I believe in God 100%. But I also, everything that you all are saying, it makes sense to me. It 100% makes sense to me. I've had conversations with people who are atheists, and they have made it very clear. They're like, listen, I don't understand how a God who is supposed to be perfect, supposed to be all loving, I don't understand how this particular God can allow all of these bad things to happen to people and to children and to, it just doesn't make sense. If he's supposed to be perfect, how all of these imperfect things happening?
Hold on, but how do you explain free will?
I don't believe in free will.
I don't think you have free will, but
Oh boy.
And
oh boy.
and that's the thing.
You did a whole podcast on that.
I understand why people don't believe in free will.
Well, who's in control? If there is no God and we don't
Now,
have
if
free
you're
will,
asking me,
oh my
if you're
God, hold on
asking
a
me,
second,
God,
I would say determinism.
Physics.
I gotta find
Physics
my
is in control.
strings. Where are my strings? What the hell?
Your brain is making you do that.
Yeah.
So there is no God and we don't have free will.
I don't think the Bible actually makes a good case for free will either.
I got so many questions. I got so many. Why am I not going inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale? What is going on?
Yeah, that's actually part of your synaptic nerve system telling you to keep it alive.
I was gonna say, what you're doing right now.
I knew he had an answer for it. I wasn't even being. I mean, I was being sarcastic, but not without being aware of who I'm speaking to.
and you know what? And that's the difference between believers and non-believers. The non-believers are going to give you a tangible explanation.
Yeah.
Us believers, we're going to say it's faith.
Yeah,
which is not tangible.
Yeah. And
so,
at some point. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say the long and the short of all of that is that, I mean, I think we're getting back to not get too far down the rabbit hole, but just because we don't believe in a God, and because we don't think there's free will, but if there is a God and you're defining him as perfection, especially if you're using the God of the Bible, it seems that there's a lot of problems with that. And assuming that God exists. And if you don't assume that God exists, then obviously you can give it any kind of attribute you want. If you say the Loch Ness Monster doesn't exist, then you can say, oh, its neck is 50 feet long. Well, it doesn't really matter because there is no Loch Ness Monster for you to compare it to. So the question I would have is
says who? Says who?
Yeah, I mean the long and the short is what makes God perfect if it's not some external standard, or if it's not something we're comparing it to. So like you said, your wife is perfect for you because she meets certain criteria. But when you say God is perfect, you don't have to give that.
God is not
nuance.
Meeting criteria. God is not meeting any sort of criteria.
You just say God is perfect, and at least I would think that's what you would say if you're a Christian.
But how is he not meeting any criteria?
But he doesn't.
How about this? So if you believe God is perfect, right?
I do.
Okay, so like, what if God come and just like kill me right now? Like, God is still perfect.
No, you can't take this personal. All right. Don't take it
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah. Well,
Okay, but see, so in His perfection, I believe that there's things that I'm not going to understand. I'm not going to know why. It's not going to be an explanation for. And sometimes it may not be in the moment. It may not be till after the fact. I remember when my mother had cancer and she was dealing with cancer. She full on believed that what she was going through wasn't for her. It was to strengthen somebody else. And so if for me to believe that God is perfect is for me to have faith that everything He does is for the good. Somehow, some way, it's for the good. So, and that's why there's not like that's why I say like the
so
Are you saying that?
it sounds like you're kind of like appealing the trans.
Oh, he froze, and that's probably
Frozen
good
again.
because he's about to use a 4 or 5 syllable word.
Yeah. Did y'all freeze or did I freeze?
You froze.
Oh no,
You
Okay,
froze.
okay, my bad,
froze.
man. This is going on the internet, but I was gonna say it sounds like you're making a transcendental argument. It sounds like you're saying that like when God does something, it's perfect, even if it doesn't seem that way. But it's just beyond. It transcends your understanding, right?
Okay.
Well,
That's
I
what
would-
you're saying.
Okay.
No, hold on. So let's say this: there's whether something is transcendent or whether something is just stupid. They're going to look identical, right? Because you're not going to understand them.
Mm-hmm.
Are they?
No,
Are they?
I wouldn't say because stupid. If I've determined it to be stupid, it disagrees with my logic, right?
Yeah.
Not just transcends it.
Or it could just be
doesn't mean
evil. Because what I'm saying is like you're saying like God could do something, and it seems bad, but you're just trusting that this is ultimately for the good, even though the good consequences that are going to come about like aren't visible
to me.
right? Yes. Okay. So what if the thing that happens is just bad, but so there are no visibly good consequences because they just don't exist. You know what I'm saying? So whether something is just bad or something is transcendentally good, they're going to look identical.
But what would be what I'm saying is it's about perspectives because what's just bad?
Okay, how about this? Okay, so you say it's like let's say a loved one dies, right? And you say, God did this ultimately for the good, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, remember, you're speaking to a call where we typically laugh more at funerals than anything.
Yeah, true. Okay. Yeah. I mean, okay. What if when God kills a person, like he's just like just being a dick, right? He just decided to do it, right?
God's just
like
being a dick.
How epistemically, how are you going to know the difference? How are you going to know that he is doing some good transcendental thing versus something is just bad? You understand what I'm saying?
But I understand what you're asking, but the answer is definitely faith. That's what's going. Oh, he froze again.
But you can have faith either way, right? So like, I just do something bad to you, right? And you could just have faith. Hey, I'm your cousin. There's no way Josh would ever do something, evil to me. So I'll just have faith and trust him. Right?
Okay.
You could do it. That's no indication of what my intentions are.
Okay, but
you could put faith in either category, whether I'm bad and trying to hurt you, or whether I'm doing something good that you just don't understand. Either way, you're not going to be able to understand. That's what I'm saying. Epistemically, they're going to look the same.
I think the difference is
if they're going to look the same, how are you talking about two different situations? How are you talking about two different intentions? If they're obviously going to, it's about perspective, right? And they're gonna look, they may look the same to one group and different to another, right? Based on the determining factor, which in this case is faith, what you choose to believe the intent actually is, right?
Yeah, well, no, I would say what you believe about it has no impact on the the actual nature of what's going on. So I can
hold on.
believe, I can have faith that is something's good. It doesn't mean that it's good. So how about
okay. So but still, you can have faith that something is good and it doesn't mean that it's good, but you also said you can have faith in two things. I mean, you can have faith from both sides. So you can believe that something is bad. That also doesn't make it bad. So now,
good.
So now,
sure.
what are we talking about?
You sure could. Like, well, so what I would do is I would look at the available evidence, whatever the consequences show. Like, does this seem to be bad? Well, then it's probably bad. It's probably bad. Does it seem to be good? Then it's probably good. I'm not going to put faith in either option. Like, I'm going to make it based off the best available evidence.
But I mean, that's considerably short-sighted, right? Because it's just like when, you know, how people say in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, for instance, when I teach my kids lessons right now, that they continually display a complete lack of understanding of that lesson until they get older, right? And then it comes out. Now, I've essentially given up because, as TJ will definitely second, you know, you plant seeds, right? And so it's an ignorant individual that plants a seed today and expects fruit tomorrow, right? And you don't necessarily lose the faith just because it didn't come on the third day or the fourth day, but eventually it comes about.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
and when it comes about, now you have reason to believe that is true. I mean,
right.
But
what I'm saying, but I'm saying you're saying that the evidence that you have at hand, that you have available, but if that situation is continually, if that's constantly evolving,
and you can change, you can update,
right?
So just like, you know, we're playing football, I'm running to the right, you think I'm going that direction, and then I juke and go to the left. Okay, now you think I'm going to the left. Like you continuously update on the best available information, but you don't make up stuff. You don't say, even though there's no evidence for this, I'm going to believe it anyway.
Well, see, understand that using the same example that you just gave, where you're going to the right and then you're going to juke to the left. As a defensive player, what I need to be aware of is the fact that you're on the field.
Yeah.
Not that you're right in front of me.
Yes.
Not you're directed to my right, or not you're directed to my left. But as long as you're on the field, I need to be agile enough with the expectation that this is the game.
Yeah, that's part of it. That's part of it as well. You coming in there with the knowledge that there's a possibility that I could juke you, right?
Okay,
you're coming, right? Yeah, but you don't. You already have evidence that that's a thing, because people juke people in football. That's the thing. But if there's no evidence, if you have a option, like you wouldn't consider a possibility that you have like no evidence for. Like, for instance,
like if he gets the ball and he's running towards the goal, you probably wouldn't expect him to pull a super soaker out and start like spraying the field full of spray paint.
Or run into another dimension, right?
yeah, like just like random stuff happening.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like you're appealing to things that we have good reason to believe that would happen. So I think we're getting real way into the weeds here.
I thought so as well. I tried to like draw you back 10 minutes ago because you were going way off the end.
Yeah, we're going way up. Okay, so let's.
Okay,
so
who's we?
Like, all right, it was me.
All right, cool.
All right, so well, I'll give you an example. So like last week we talked about, we did an episode on the Bible and civil rights, and our guest was defending some really bad things in the Bible, in my opinion. So he talked about we talked about the slavery, and the Bible is pretty clear. It allows chattel slavery, a type of slavery that we saw in the United States and in the 19th century.
Can I take a moment to just interject and just say that your last guest was an absolute asshole? I'm sorry. You can
okay. Okay. All right. So anyway, so
that's debatable.
Sure. No, it's not. Trust me.
So we have the God of the Bible allowing slavery, right? And so some people will look at this passage and say that reason God is allowing slavery is because he has this extra knowledge. He has this wisdom that far surpasses ours, and we can't understand it. And so it looks bad to us, but there is a good that is just beyond our head, right? That's one scenario. And there's another scenario where there's a God who's allowing slavery because he just has bad intentions, right?
Okay,
so
hold on.
for the people, go ahead.
Are we not talking about the existence of free will in the midst of these two situations?
No, so, free will is totally irrelevant to the point I was going to make.
Okay, shoot.
So what this is just about it, just as sheer epistemology, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have people. So you have Group A. God allows slavery, but God has some transcendent, benevolent purpose that people just don't understand. And so to them, it looks evil, but the good is just beyond them. It's beyond their understanding. And then you have the Group B. The God is actually evil.
Or
right?
at least that he's allowing an evil act.
Yes, right. And there is no transcendent good, right? So in either group, they do not have access to this benevolent information. In Group A, it's just over their head. In Group B, it just don't exist. How do you know which group you're in?
What do you mean, Heidi? By the different You just gave distinguishing characteristics.
Let's say I told you you're in a group. You have a group. There's two guys in two different worlds, right? Group A is a good God who is he's allowing slavery for a benevolent purpose that is beyond the people's understanding. And then Group B is in a world where the God is just evil and is allowing slavery.
Okay.
So from their perspective, it looks identical. That's what I'm saying. So, like, let's say, I guess
that's not what I'm understanding. How you're giving the distinguishing characteristics? How do they look identical?
How about this? Okay, so I'm going to put you in one of the groups, right? Now you can ask me a question to figure out which group you're in. I've already determined which group you're in, and ask me some questions so you can know which group you're in.
I'm not even sure how to formulate that question because. So what are you assuming my belief is?
Well, I want to know how you distinguish the good God from the evil God.
Well, I guess this is what I don't understand. Well, I won't jump into that yet, but I think that you either believe him to be good or evil, period. Right? And so you know that's just it. Like,
but we're not talking about a belief right now. But not belief. It's just like this is epistemology. Like, I'm asking, how do you know? You're in one of the groups.
But you're talking about God.
Sure.
So you can't eliminate faith.
But faith. But I'm not talking about faith. I'm talking about just knowledge. Like for instance, like
knowledge, but knowledge of what though? The
knowledge of whether or not the God is evil or good.
But what do you mean you're talking about knowledge? Where's that knowledge coming from?
What do you mean? Like how about for me, if I was in either one of the groups, what I would try to figure out, and I was like, can I find some sort of end game, whereas the slavery is actually going to benefit us? That's what I would look for, right?
Okay.
But if I'm in Group B, that benefit doesn't exist because the God is evil. If I'm in Group A, I'm not going to be able to see it because it's transcendent.
You're not going to be able to see whatever the
good is.
Okay.
Yeah. Because the good, that would be my indication that God's end plan was actually benevolent. So he just allowed it because he had some sort of good purpose at the end. That's what will be my clue. But I don't have that in either one. In one case, in one case, it does not exist. In the other case, it is beyond my understanding.
Right, but it sounds. I mean, you're saying one place, faith does not exist in any other.
No. You
Faith
can have faith
does.
in either one. You can have faith in either one. Like both sides can have faith that their God is good. But what I'm talking about is how would they come to the knowledge that is actually the case?
Because evil isn't the only thing that exists. Right. And then let me also ask this question. Like when we talk about go ahead.
I'm not sure how that would demonstrate anything. Like
how would
existence of like other things is not evil.
What
give an indication.
An apt analogy help.
Go ahead. Because
Okay.
when I listen
maybe
to you
maybe
all,
we're just missing each other, and I'll try to give this analogy. I was thinking about like a way to explain it in a different way. Let's say I have an ant farm. I have 2 ant farms, okay? And in one of them, I decide I'm going to treat the ants like I just hate the ants. Like I have no respect for them, their home, etc. And in one, I respect the ants, and I have knowledge that the ants don't have. But the ants will, like, because they're way shorter lived than I am, are never going to see the benefits of the things that I do for them. Like, there will be hundreds, if not thousands, of generations of ants before what I do to them will ever matter. If it matters at all, right? And then, so I have Ant Farm 1, which I care about deeply, but it will take hundreds and thousands of years, maybe not even in this lifetime. Like, let's say these ants have an afterlife, and I can control that too somehow. But, like, the other one, I'm just evil. And then one day, I decide to pour a cup of gasoline on both ant farms. Okay? And you're in one of the ant farms as an ant. How do you determine which of the 2 ant farms you're in? How would you know whether you're in one that I'm just being evil to, or one that you don't know that I'm going to eventually do good for you? I've done the same action to both of them, which is pouring gasoline, which is going to kill all the ants. So how do you determine whether I have a distinct plan for your ant colony, or I'm just being evil to it?
Hold on, I got a question. So, and maybe this could give clarity to you, Terry. I mean, uncommentary. In answering that question, are you all saying that if there is a God, that he is not perfect, and that there is some evil in him, and that sometimes he does good things and then sometimes he does evil things?
That's not necessarily what I'm saying, or the metaphor I'm trying to set up. What I think, at least if I were wagering where both he and I are going, is that there's no way, if God's ways are so transcendent of our own, there's no way for us to determine whether God is good with a plan for the future, or God is evil with no plan for the future if the actions are the same in the present. Because I have no way of knowing, like, that in the future, God may take the ant farm that he cares about and do some sort of wizardry that, like, turns the soil so good for ants that it's just beyond anything ants have ever seen. Also, he could light them on fire. There's no way for me to determine that, and there's no way me as a human will ever see the end result of that if I'm an ant in the ant farm, right? Because I'm not going to live long enough for it to matter, and neither will my ancestors or my ancestors' ancestors, and it may not even happen, at least biblically, in this lifetime. Like, it might be a reward for you in the afterlife. So the question is, how would I, living currently, determine whether God has some grand transcendent plan that I can't understand, or God is just pouring gasoline on me and I'm in the ant farm and he wants me to die?
Okay, so the question is, how would you actually determine?
Yeah, how would I determine which one is which ant farm I'm in?
Well, so my question, I'm sorry to answer a question with a question, but how does that not create the space for faith?
Oh, I mean, faith is irrelevant. That doesn't change. Like, I could believe I'm in either one. I could have faith that I'm in either one. So how would I determine knowledge?
Okay, so let's say this.
How could I know which one I'm in?
Let's say you can't know. So you can't know.
What?
Okay.
So
So then,
that seems to be the case. Like
No. Right. So you can't know.
Yeah.
okay.
You can't. I mean, because right now, as we sit looking at each other right now, you don't believe in God. I do believe in God. Which one of us knows that the other is not, or which one of us knows that we're right?
Right. So
Well,
the question ultimately becomes like, what do you do about it?
I was
Because
looking for a
if you
show of hands. Well, what? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the question becomes
And the
like
fact
more
is,
like,
everybody could have raised their hand.
yeah. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
see. Well, I don't see how you could know. You could believe. But you
Right,
wouldn't,
but
you wouldn't have any knowledge.
so let me ask this question: why do you need to know?
well,
Well,
for
What are you
instance,
gonna What are you gonna do with that knowledge?
If he's the God of the Bible, like who's like this homophobic, self-absorbed, despot who's going to torture me forever if I don't believe the right things, then
hold on.
I think it's important for me to know, right?
Okay, so the Bible, from cover to cover,
Mm-hmm.
is a book of tragedies.
Well,
Alone,
no.
tragedies.
No.
Nothing positive has occurred.
No, I don't believe that at all.
No reason to give praise, to give glory. Nothing like that has occurred.
No.
Okay, well then,
I'm not gonna say.
one question.
Well, I'm not gonna say it's
question.
all trash. I'm not gonna say it's all trash, but I'm saying, but like, it's so like whether or not it's important to know if the God exists, it depends on the properties, the characteristics of the God. Is the God going to torture you for not knowing that He exists? If so, then I would say it's very important to know. Like if He just doesn't care, He just treats.
But how are you going to know?
Well, I don't. Well, he could show up.
You're not gonna know.
He could show up. If He's God, if He's all powerful, He could give you the knowledge to know.
But he could also choose not to for the purpose of you establishing faith and maintaining faith, right? So, and then this is just curious too. Why, when we say if there is God, God is perfect, then why does He allow babies to? Why does it have to be such an extreme? Why can't it simply be? Why does He make the speed limit 65?
I don't even say. Well, I don't even say like allow it. So I don't even say like allow it, right? Because like so it's one thing. Like there's one thing to allow. I mean, it would contradict God being perfectly good and omnipotent, but that's not what was going on. Like there are several instances in the Bible I can show you where God is telling people to do something that is just gross, like killing entire groups of people, saving the virgins for themselves. I wonder why they want those. Could I be rape? It sounds like it. It sounds like we're talking about rape here. So I mean, like it's all in there. So I'm not gonna say all of it's trash. Like there's some good parts. There's some there's some parts that's laughably stupid, and then there's parts that's like trash. That's just like evil. I could give you like the rape law. We talked about that the last episode of our podcast. There's a law whereas if a woman who's not betrothed, if she's raped, you pay the father 50 shekels of silver, and then she has to marry him. She has to marry the rapist. I can't imagine a perfect being or even a good being.
Where did that come from?
Oh, that's in the Bible.
yes,
Right. No. I mean, there's a lot of things in the Bible. There's quite a few things in the Bible that I mean, obviously they're relative to the time, and they're also it's an account of. I mean, man still exists in the Bible.
Yeah, but this isn't man. This is okay. This is supposedly the law that's given to Moses from God. So this isn't like people writing a law and God is like, oh, why didn't you write that? No, like this is a law straight from God. This is the Mosaic law.
Okay, I got a question. Hey Terry.
Yeah.
I got a question. I'm just trying to just bring everything full circle because I don't want it to seem like I'm jumping on both sides. Although
yeah, you're gray.
Maybe
so that's kind of
maybe I am because I live in the gray area. So, exactly. Yeah. So maybe I am jumping on both sides because I understand things that both sides were saying here. So Terry, let me ask you this: is it possible that flawed man has taken their own, because of course the Bible was written by man, right? Okay, is it possible that flawed man went and took their own interpretation, their human interpretation of what they thought God was saying, and maybe misconstrued some things when they were writing the Bible?
Well, you can't expect me to give a definitive response to a question that has possible in the. You can't read anything's possible.
Okay, all right, take possible out of it.
You know what I'm
I mean,
saying?
you could say
Now-
you say certainly, but certainly it's possible.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, but that doesn't determine anything. I mean, that's kind of,
Okay.
I don't
Well,
understand when
I would
you
say-
ask that question.
For me,
you could have
to
a
me,
point, but stick yourself with it because it
I
doesn't.
just
me-
kind of want to go back because I think we kind
I
of
think-
passed around it, and I think that Triple A is talking in circles around it because he's trying to make a point that's not quite there, or that it's being overlooked, and that
Okay.
the reason that we would want to know, and the
Okay.
reason that I would want to know, because that's something you asked, is because if the God of the Bible is real, and I don't believe in him, and I don't do certain things that have certain aspects and do things in a certain way, I will end up burning in hell, right? But the same could be said if that Allah is true, right? So, like, if Allah is the real God and the Prophet Muhammad, who wrote who interpreted the Quran from Gabriel the angel, if that's true, then I will also be punished for not believing in Allah. So the question and the answer is, why would we believe in, or why would we care about what God says, or why would we, want to determine that, is because if this is true, it would be good to know.
Yeah, it
But
has grave
also, like,
consequences.
but
Like, that's what I'm
also,
saying, like,
if it's
like-
not true, then why would you believe it?
But okay, so first of all, how do you determine whether or not it's true? Or you saying that you would like to know so that way you can know if it was true or untrue?
Or I would like
Well,
to know
yeah,
if it's
right.
true.
Just- I was gonna say, like,
Well,
just
I mean,
because of
if you know, then belief is not necessary. Really,
I agree.
Knowledge is in place, right? So, but then, when you say it has grave consequence, it doesn't take much to abide to as far as the consequences of heaven and or the reward of heaven and the consequence of hell. That takes belief. That's it.
That's God's way of doing it. But we don't know if that's the Christian God's way of doing it. But like, I mean, I don't see how you can know that that's the right God. What if there's some other God? What if there's some God that
what if it's Allah?
What if the God that prioritizes reason, and all the skeptics get to go to heaven, and all the people that believe unwarranted propositions go to hell, right?
Well,
So all
let
of
me
it
ask this. Let me just ask how substantial would it be for you to base your existence on the question of what if?
I mean, everything I do is
it
what
depends.
if.
Yeah, I
mean,
would say that if,
what's the
like,
point?
depending on what the what if is. So to go back to, like, how important is it to know that, like, what if a God exists? Well, the importance is going to vary depending on the characteristics of that God. Like, if it's a guy that's just gonna he doesn't care what people do, he just goes on about his business, you die, that's the end of it, then, like, there's really no reason for you to know. I mean, at that point, it's just a matter of intellectual curiosity. But
wouldn't the importance actually be on what those characteristics of that God mean to the individual?
Well, in an instance in which he's like doesn't care, it doesn't matter. For instance, like, if you believe in, like, a deist kind of a God, right? Like, you just think a God exists that created the universe, right? And then stepped away and let things run as they are. Well, it doesn't really matter how you live if you don't think God is interjecting or is going to have anything to do with you in any way, shape, or form after the initial creation of the universe. Whether he actually exists or not doesn't really matter to you, because, like, the universe exists and you exist, so here you are, and when you die, that's just the end of it. So be it. But if the Christian God exists, for instance, like what if the Christian God exists? Well, then it'd be really, really important to know, because not only does it matter about this life, apparently there's an afterlife that you get judged on too. But what if
that
it's
would only matter
Allah?
to Christians?
No, that matters to everyone.
It matters.
That's true.
Hold on.
They get to go to heaven.
Why does it matter to you if you don't believe? Why does it matter?
Because if that's the truth, then it matters.
If it's true, I'm going to be tortured whether I believe or not.
Be true, but why worry about it? Right?
Because
the consequences.
Okay, hold on.
No.
But
you have the opportunity to not suffer the consequence.
Well, I don't know. So I don't know which God it would be. So if I told you, if I told you that there, if I told you,
hold on, Josh, hold on.
Right.
If the situation is that there is a slim chance that I can wake up in hell or wake up in heaven, and I have the resource to tilt the outcome one way or the other, why would I not tilt it towards heaven?
What's this resource?
Here's the no. So
the Bible.
Okay, but that's assuming that the Bible's true, right?
That's what you're doing, because this is what you're doing. You're saying like, so there's like a 50-50 chance, right? So like if the God is real, you're saying if God is real, like you pretty much you get to go to heaven, you lose nothing, right? If God isn't real, then that's it. You just live the good life. There's nothing else to worry about, right?
Win-win.
Okay, what if that's not the God? What if the God is different? What if the God values skepticism, and he wants you to believe things based on available evidence, and he punishes religious people? So,
but now what how are you going to determine that? That doesn't make any sense.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
That's the whole point.
Yeah,
you make a decision.
You couldn't make a decision.
You can make a decision based on what you choose to have faith in.
You can have faith in anything.
Well, of course you can have faith in anything.
So how is that going to lead? So that can't lead you to the truth. It's not a reliable method of attaining the truth. Because I could have faith in the flying spaghetti monster.
All right, so I got an analogy that I think will help.
But because you can have faith, you don't have faith. You don't have faith in anything.
I got an analogy that I think may help. So hold on. So let's say I think that what you're arguing is this. Let's say there's a ship that's sinking, right? There's one life jacket. The life jacket may help you float or it may not, right? But there's a life jacket, so you might as well put it on. Right? If I'm right, my life is safe. If I'm wrong, well, I'm damned anyway. Right? So, and that's the way you're seeing God, right? Believe in God.
No. I believe in God, period.
But isn't that kind of like the argument that you're making?
No.
I don't think so. I think that the argument that as a believer in God, I believe that the argument that we're making is that the life jacket is going to save me. Bottom line, there is no what I'm saying is this: it's going to save me.
What I'm saying is this: of all the things that you choose not to believe in, why God? Why not believe in the possibility of the greater good? Why not believe in that? Why put a greater faith in the evil? Why?
Well, why not believe in fairies?
I believe in the greater good.
That's the difference.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, like, I believe in the greater good. I believe in all that stuff. So, like, well, what I'll do is, like, I'll believe in things that I have evidence for. If I don't have evidence for it, then I'll cease to believe in it. You know, I mean,
so
I think that's the biggest.
Or do you just know it?
I think that's the biggest disconnect because
do you believe in it or do you know it?
So it depends what we're talking about. There's some things that I'll believe in. There's some things that I know.
Right. Okay. So let me give this metaphor. Say you're lost, right? You're lost in a country where you don't speak the language, right? And you ask somebody directions. They're pointing, right? You can have faith from. Oh, now I can see that they're pointing, but I don't necessarily know what they're saying. They could be saying to me, "If you go right up here, we're gonna go ahead kill you and your family.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you got to decide. Now that looks like, you know, it looks like it could be where it is that I'm trying to, right? So you got to have the faith either.
No, it wouldn't be faith. I mean, like, I would go look and see what he's pointing into. I wouldn't just walk in there. I'd be like, what's going on? See if there's somebody else around. Can they tell me? Can somebody else tell me what's going on?
If you take even one step away from him, you're stepping out on some degree of faith.
No, I'm investigating. I'm just investigating.
Why didn't you just go the other way?
Well,
because if you take even one step in the direction that he's pointing, you're stepping out on some degree.
No. So the faith would be if I believe that he's telling me how to get home, and then I just assume that, and I just walked in there. What I'm doing is I'm investigating. But even I have no idea what he told me, and now I'm trying to figure out so I can make some sort of action off of it. I'm trying to make action.
But you would believe it possible that what you want to happen could happen from that. Otherwise,
yes, and it's also possible that it's a
otherwise,
trap.
why move at all? Otherwise, why move at all?
The reason you moving,
why move at all in the direction that he's pointed if you don't have any degree of faith in the possibility that could do you some good?
We're investigating. That's all you're doing. So okay. So there's a puzzle. Okay, let's say somebody says, "Oh, they're you know, well, most of us IT guys. Like if somebody says their computer's broken, and then you go over to the computer to figure out if it's actually broken or for whatever the problem is going on. Like by going over there at the request, you're not taking exactly what they said by faith.
But you also know you're not doing that. You also, if you're going to use that example and they say their computer is broken, you know that you're going to sit where you are and ask the question, is it plugged in? What evidence do you have of power? What evidence do you have of error? What is it? What command are you inputting?
There you go. You're investigating. You're investigating.
Right.
But is it
in my spot where I stand?
Sure, but you're not using faith.
Move.
You're not
before
using
I make
faith.
a move.
Yeah, but like, let's say you don't have.
I don't need faith. I don't need faith in that situation. Yeah. I am investigating.
Yeah, you don't need faith to investigate what the guy's saying.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm taking taking steps.
No,
it's a requirement to investigate in a scenario.
If you moved in at all in the direction that he's pointing, there is some degree of faith.
To me, I think that's just totally arbitrary.
Why?
Because why is taking a step? Why is moving in this scenario an act of faith, but in the IT scenario, asking questions isn't? Like they're both just investigating.
Understand what I'm saying? If you're moving in the direction that he's pointed, I didn't say just movement at all. If you're moving in the direction that he's pointing, you can go in any direction you choose to go into. But if you're moving in the direction that he's pointed, there's some degree of faith.
But how else would you investigate?
What if you
investigate?
Let me ask you this. Let me take that same scenario though.
Right. Hold on. Hey. You can tell me to make a right. If I choose to make 3 lefts, I'll end up in the same space, but I haven't gone the way that you pointed.
Let me go this way because I think it will help. If the guy never shows up and I stumble upon his property where he's gonna kill and eat my family, okay, did I have any faith to get there?
Are you essentially asking me if this scenario was different than the one I stated?
I'm asking because you said like the movement is what's causing this faith. The movement in that direction. Not just
the movement. Yeah, the movement in the direction that he has.
Okay, but if I just wander that way, did it take faith to get there?
No.
So what I did was I took the evidence of another human life pointing in a direction, which is the only sign that is human in my lost in the woods scenario, and then I decided to investigate that. How is that faith? If I saw a sign pointing a direction that said something that I didn't know how to read, it's not me taking faith on the sign that at the end of it is my ride home. It's me investigating if there is something in the direction of the sign.
So you're saying it's pure coincidence that I just happen to need to go in that direction, and this direction is pointing that way.
No.
So
No,
here we go.
it doesn't. This isn't anything to do with like coincidence.
Because
Well, then what are we saying?
okay, so how about this? Like, so you're in a foreign country, and you're trying to figure out how to get home, and a guy tells you something. He could be lying. He tells you to go. He could tell you to go this way. He could be lying, or he could be telling the truth. So what I would do is I'm not going to make any judgment about his honesty whatsoever. What I'll do is I'll investigate. I was like, he could be lying. He could be telling the truth. I don't know. So I walk this direction to see if it will lead me home. Until I get home, I'm not going to believe the claim. I'm not going to believe he's lying either way.
Understood.
So that's what I'm saying. So
why not walk in another direction?
Well, so the only evidence I don't know where home is. The only evidence that I have is that somebody pointed me this direction. So that's the only actionable intel that I have, right?
Okay.
It's not particularly good intel, but it's all you have. So since that's the only actionable intel, that's the direction that you would investigate.
It is the only evidence, but it's not the only choice. You can completely.
It's not the only choice, but it's
completely ignore it altogether.
You could.
You could say, I don't understand the language. I don't trust it. Whatever the situation, I'll find another way altogether.
Sure, but and if you were, by the way, and if you was telling the truth and you went the other way and you ended up dying, then what you did was you missed an opportunity to investigate what would turn out to be the truth.
Okay. Now, that being said, why not live for God?
Because I don't have good evidence that a God exists.
Well, I was gonna say like which one? Like I was one was kind of evil, man.
I mean, but again,
I can't worship baby killers, man. I can't worship baby killers.
That's not the
I
only
don't
thing
even have good evidence that baby killer exists. So that's where I would stand.
Well, I mean,
So-
to me,
hold on. Let's go back. I want to go back.
Okay.
So I got a question for you, Tribulate and Fantastic Facade. I got a question for both of you. Actually, I have two questions. One, was there ever a time that you believed in God? And two, if so, what made you stop believing?
So for me, it was definitely a time I believed in God. I mean, it was like indoctrinated into it, right?
I already knew the answer to you. That question.
Right. Okay. All right. So what I used to do is I used to take the Bible for its word. Like I was, if there was something that didn't make any sense to me, I would assume the Bible's telling the truth, and I just don't understand it for whatever reason. It's just beyond. It just transcends my wisdom. All right. And so I got to a point where I stopped doing that. I was like, how do I know that this thing is transcendent and not actually just stupid or just immoral? They look the same. And so what I did was I decided to make decisions based on the available evidence. And so I was seeing stuff that I just thought was just outright immoral. Passage in particular was Romans 13 that says that all governments are good, right? Obviously that's not true. And so once I tossed that out, I was like, okay, that part of the Bible is bad. And so I started reading more of it, and it was like within a week I wasn't a Christian anymore. So that's ultimately what happened. It was just this lack of ability to determine to a transcendent good from something that's bad. Gotcha. And it's a huge problem. I don't see how anybody could escape it, because if you're saying that the good is transcendent, like God has a benevolent purpose that just transcends human wisdom, then you are literally saying that there is no evidence of the good thing. Because if you had evidence of it, then it wouldn't be transcendent. You could just point to the evidence.
Hold on a second. Let me be clear. You're saying there's no evidence of the good thing, but you talk as if there's no evidence of a good thing.
Yeah, sure. So, like,
I mean, that's not something that we ever have even touched on. Anything that God has done.
let me
opposite.
let me be very specific. So let me be very
Okay.
specific. So let's
Okay.
talk. Okay, so let's talk about slavery, right?
Mhm.
So I looked at slavery law, right? And so the way I used to see it was God had some ultimate good purpose of it,
Mhm.
but the wisdom of this good purpose was just beyond me, right? It just went over my head. It went over everybody's head.
Mhm.
And so the problem was, I'm looking at this. I'm like, is this wisdom beyond me, or is it non-existent? Either way, I don't have access to it. And this is what I was talking about earlier. Epistemically, they're going to look identical because it's transcendent. This is
Okay. So that being said, why do you choose to not believe? Like
Actually,
if they
hold
look
on.
identical,
Hold
go
on.
ahead.
Actually, before you answer that question, I want Fantastic Facade's answer to my question too, because I want to get because that was I was leading going where you just went on commentary. That's where I wanted to go to,
Mhm.
but I want to get both of their answers first before we go there.
Yeah, you could
Okay.
essentially copy paste most of that answer to my own answer. I was born
Okay.
and raised in a Christian home and a Christian family. I grew up
Mhm.
with him. I mean, I've known this guy my whole life. Like, I know his dad. I know who he is. I grew up in church, went to church. My deconversion came about when I started running into, like, questions about things that happened in the Bible, questions about events and actions and circumstances in the Bible that I couldn't find answers to. And so I went on a really deep search for answers about things in the Bible, and I found myself lacking. And so I talked to smarter people than me. I talked to pastors. I talked to uh, like like prayer leaders. I talked to straight up, like, we went and talked. I went and talked to, like, some pretty famous theologians at the school that I was attending. So I had, like, full on hours and hours of conversation, and I spent a lot of time thinking, and then I started doing a bunch of research externally to some of these questions. And I got to the point where essentially I was picking and choosing things in the Bible that I either agreed with or disagreed with. And then I recognized that if I have to do that, then perhaps I don't really believe it in its entirety. And then I started deconstructing my beliefs in general and to why I believed it. And then I started looking into things like the history of the Bible and the character of God, and recognized that I actually have problems with a lot of these things. Not only do I think that there's some significant historical inaccuracies in the Bible, not only do I think that there are clear problems with the God of the Bible and the actions of the God of the Bible, but then I got to the philosophical point, which is where my mind leads, where his is a legalistic mind, mine's a philosophical one. I could tell you for sure his story came about because at the time he was studying law, and I was studying language and philosophy, and I enjoy both. And where mine came about is I recognize there's some pretty overt problems with, if you put all these things into a being, you essentially create contradictions. Like, a God can't be omnibenevolent and all
all
just.
powerful.
Yeah, and, like, all
Oh
powerful.
yeah,
Like,
well, yes, oh yeah, justice and benevolence they kind of contradict. So
yeah, they're
mercy and justice, sure.
contradiction.
Yeah, because mercy is a suspension of justice.
Yeah, so once I started doing this, I basically eradicated my belief in the Christian God, and then I kind of looked into world religion for a long time, and was just like, oh, well, there's not really good reason to believe in how most people define any God, especially when you start giving it omni attributes. So I don't see good reason to believe in one. However, if you define God as something that I find reasonable and plausible and demonstrable, it might be worth reconsidering. But when you, especially because I'm very familiar with the God of the Bible and I grew up a Christian, I would say it is extremely unlikely that God exists and philosophically and historically, I could probably go toe to toe with the best of them.
I think I know what your
Gotcha.
question was. You asked like, why do we make a decision on it if there's no actionable intel, right? So you're saying like, if we don't know either way, why did we decide to believe that God doesn't exist? Is that what you're about to ask?
You mean my question?
Yeah.
No, that was.
Well,
That's what I was gonna ask.
that's what Terry
No.
was asking. I thought.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. That's what
Well,
I was gonna
I can answer it really
And-
quick. So like that's not my view. Like I don't believe in non-existence. Like so like there's two possibilities, right? Either God
Okay.
exists or he doesn't, right? This is the law of excluded middle, right? I lack a belief in
Okay.
that. Put a middle finger up. So I lack in a belief that that he exists.
Back at you.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. So like
I'll be straightening
I
those
do not-
glasses in a minute.
Yeah, I don't. I want to say I don't believe the claim that he exists, right?
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that I believe the claim that he doesn't exist either. So,
Oh, boy.
I'm not either one of those. Like, I'm just atheism is just, do you believe in a God? If you say no, then you're an atheist. That doesn't mean that you don't believe he exists either. But like I'm perfectly fine with putting like God in the same category that I will put Santa Claus or fairies and leprechauns and stuff like that. So I would say,
hold on. So you're also not saying, you're not saying you believe in fairies and Santa Claus and leprechauns, but you're also not saying that you don't.
yeah. Like I mean, there's no way I could prove that it doesn't exist. I mean, God could be hiding it under a rock in another galaxy or something like that. Like,
Right, that makes perfect sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
So Terry, uncommon Terry.
Yeah, either way.
So now my question for you is, do you understand how they could read the Bible, pinpoint inaccuracies and contradictions, and then come to the conclusion that, I don't know if there's a God at this point? And if so, if you can understand that, how do you then explain faith to the person who sees those inaccuracies and contradictions and thinks that there probably isn't a God at this point?
Well, you got to understand that for me, being from the perspective of a believer, anything that, because I'm not afraid to question the Bible. If I have a question, I ask a question.
Mm-hmm.
And by that nature, I'm now studying. Yeah, I mean, so I don't expect it to be that it's just something that can be, that you go ahead and take in and it just is what it is, right? So do I understand their perspective immediately? Yeah, but not ultimately, because I believe that God is perfect. So there is going to come a space where I don't understand, so I'm going to just continue to ask the question. I don't know how this applies.
Hold on. My bad. Not do you understand? Do you understand why they see it that way? Because I personally think that there are things in the Bible that are worth being questioned. There are things that to me seem like inaccuracies and contradictions. It does not shake my faith at all in God. But I do see the inaccuracies and the contradictions. So I understand when somebody looks at those things and they're like, well, if this God is supposed to be perfect, a contradiction and an inaccuracy is the opposite of perfect. I understand that.
Okay, I mean, I guess I understand that. I understand the concept. I also understand the concept of opposites attract type of thing, kind of, I'll say this: I can accept that that's their perspective. I don't know about understand. Yeah, I mean, because I full on believe that God is perfect and that somehow, I just haven't reached a level of understanding yet.
So the question I typically ask people, if I can, is typically like there's two questions that typically really define like who this person is, and that's what you believe and why you believe it. So the question we've been asking and trying to like the quote we've been talking around is God perfect? The question is, why do you believe that God is perfect?
Okay, now when you ask me that question, are you willing to accept my answer?
Well, yeah, I mean,
Maybe,
you can answer it in any way. I'm willing to accept your answer, but it might
I
not be a good one.
being honest.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, the reason
I really might not accept it.
No.
It's
They're
very-
not going to accept it.
No, I mean, there's a difference
very
in me
simple.
accepting your answer and me thinking it's a bad one. Like I might accept it
Okay.
that is your
Right,
answer.
okay.
I'm sure that's fine. You can answer it any way you want. I may point out the
Okay.
flaw and why you say that, though.
Well-
Which you believe is a flaw.
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
because
especially if it's
I
a
will tell you
clear
what,
contradiction. or
Very
flaw.
simply put, very simply put, very simply put, I believe that God is perfect because I choose to believe that God is perfect. Very simply put.
I believe that bread is perfect because I choose to believe that bread is perfect.
I mean, minimize it how you will, but that's it. Conceptually,
Sure.
that's it. It's a
Okay.
choice.
So
And
the-
this
Wheat bread is disgusting.
I
I was
It's
just
a
naming
choice.
a random
So-
thing.
so-
you know?
I guess this was my whole beef with that saying anyway, because if you're saying you believe it's perfect just because you choose to do it, then God isn't perfect in any way that anything else could be perfect. Like I could believe this bar of soap is perfect because I believe it to be. Right,
Done.
I could believe our serial rapist is perfect because
Yo,
I
do you
believe.
just have a bunch
Done.
of random things?
I
Just
do.
sitting on
I
your
have so much
desk?
random stuff.
You got in the background what it is because he's actually sitting in a dollar store, right?
Yeah, right.
He
So
using-
I got a
he
pair of
using
dog tags right
Mickey
here.
D's free
Dog
free
tags.
Wi-Fi.
Yeah, it's real.
But no, I mean, so I guess, like I said, I think it's a choice, plain and simple.
Sure. So, but
It's a
in
choice.
that sense, God is. When you say God is perfect, is he's not perfect in a way that anything else couldn't be perfect. That's what I'm saying. So like it's to me, it's a very trivial statement if you're going to define.
Okay,
define it that way.
so then essentially what you're debating is the significance of making the statement.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
Okay.
I guess we're not making a statement, but the significance of the statement itself, because most Christians, when I asked them, and I was like, so when you say God is perfect, what standard are you appealing to? And they say God. God is the standard of perfection. So I'm like, so God is perfect because He matches Himself, which is the standard. And they're like, yeah. Well, if that's the case, everything is perfect. That's literally the law of identity. I am perfect if I'm my own metric of perfection, because I perfectly embody the properties of myself. That's exactly what God is doing.
Okay, is that an argument or just a
No,
declaration?
well, so I mean, it
I
could
would say
be.
it's just
Well,
pointing
I'm
out
not
the
making.
tautology.
It's more just a declaration. Like I'm just pointing out the fact that it's not a meaningful statement. So when you say
It doesn't mean anything to you.
well, it doesn't.
Understood.
What I mean. So when you say God is perfect, He's not perfect in any way that anything else isn't also perfect.
Okay, if that's
God is perfect in this. God is perfect in the same way that Hitler is perfect. Like in the same way, yes. Because
so right. So if someone believes that Hitler is perfect,
well,
right.
yeah. If Hitler is
if your
Hitler
definition
is the
of
measure
perfect
of his,
is the most of itself, is being the most of yourself, then everything is perfect because it is all it has ever been.
yes,
You're just identifying it as itself.
If you're measuring something against itself, then it's going to be perfect.
If that's how
It
you're
has to be.
defining perfect.
Yeah, or else it would be a contradiction.
Okay, that being said, and that being true,
Mhm.
so
I mean, so then God's perfection is meaningless. It doesn't mean anything.
it is meaningless to someone that God means nothing to. 100%.
Well, no, but it's meaningless in the sense is that
It's meaningless as
that
a
logic
statement.
applies.
Yeah.
Yes, you're just stating the law of identity.
Yeah,
That's all you're doing. But there's
that's
nothing profound about it.
to you. I understand that.
But it couldn't be to you either.
Why couldn't it be?
Because it's so. How about
But
when I say this?
God means more to me than that bar of soap.
Sure.
Yeah.
but he's no more God because of it.
Yeah.
Well, he's not God at all, as far as you're concerned. So there is no
but-
more or less God.
Okay,
Right.
but
So from your perspective, he cannot have significance because he does not have existence. It's cool. I understand that.
the significance of something has nothing to do with its perfection.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Right,
even if we grant you his existence, it doesn't change that statement. Like, that's the whole point.
It doesn't change. Hold on. But if you're saying that he can be perfect just as this bar of soap is perfect, let's go back to the first part, which he can be perfect.
Well, that's
Right?
what the whole problem is. You're defining perfection as, like, God is the most God. And if you're saying that a thing is the most thing and that's what makes it perfect, then AAA is the most AAA because he is himself. And I would be imperfect if comparing to AAA because I'm not him.
So what's the definition of perfect? I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's the point. When you say God is perfect, but you give no measurable standard, you're not saying anything.
If you were going to use with everything else other than God, we use external standards. So if we were talking about if we were saying like this NASA ID badge is another really random thing I have on my desk, right? So if we were to say this is the perfect weight, you want to know what weight is that. And I say, oh, it's so many ounces, and then you could measure it, and then if that thing equals that amount of ounces, then it's the perfect weight.
What's an ounce?
Well,
So
I mean, it's
a
measure.
Okay, determined by who?
Wait,
by what?
Well,
technically, it came off the kilogram in the French, but
yeah. So
and before it was that, it was what?
What was it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really understanding.
I'm going to assume the gram and then the kilogram, they were all standard measures, and then before that,
I think what he's getting to is like why put any sort of value in an ounce or.
What I'm saying is, if you're saying that it has to be compared to an external resource or external source, what makes that external source valid? What makes it measurable? What you know what I mean?
You're asking what makes it have value.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's what like when you actually talked about this earlier when you were describing your wife. You said she was perfect for you, right? Well, you have certain aspects or features or attributes or desires that you would expect to see or hope for in a perfect wife, right? So if I say, like, for me, the perfect pet has 4 legs and has, like, fur and is very cuddly and playful and lots of energy and doesn't, make lots of messes, and you were like, sweet, I got the perfect pet for you, and you give me a lizard, I'd be like, oh, well, this doesn't really meet that criteria. Like, because I have this idea of what a perfect pet is. I want it to be furry, and I want it to be playful and energetic and cuddly, and a lizard doesn't meet those things, right? So I give this a standard of what my expectations are, and then when something fails to meet that, I would say it's not close to what I would say is a perfect pet. Now with God, you just say he is God, and like that is his own standard. But without anything to compare it to, all you're doing is saying God is God. But everything is everything else. It's just identifying.
But understand this, and TJ, of course, could probably attest to this to some degree. When you say having a standard, I had an idea of a perfect woman. My idea of a perfect woman was short enough for me to hug and have her head rest in my chest. Dark skin, like tape deck black, right? And hair down her back. My wife is brown skinned, 5'10", with a brush cut.
She's complete opposite.
She's perfect for me. You understand what I'm saying? So and that's what I'm saying. Like, I had an idea, but she 100% superseded, completely blew that out of the water.
Right, but
Completely.
now you still say your wife is perfect for you. By what
100%.
means are you saying she's perfect?
Because she makes me something better than I
Right,
would
so
ever
there's
have
a
been.
standard or an
that's your
objection.
external standard.
Yeah. So there's something that
So-
you're doing to compare a perfection. So someone who is less of that would be less perfect.
That is meaningful. What you just described is meaningful. So
Okay, so why couldn't God be seen in the same
he's
way?
not, because if you said that she was perfect no matter what she did, if she was a murderer and she was stealing and lying and all that kind of stuff, she was perfect, then it has no meaning, because she could be whatever.
It could be
she had.
anything or
saying-
do anything.
I'm not saying she's without flaw.
No, I'm not saying you're saying that, but what I'm saying
But
is
you're
what you
you're
just
essentially
described.
you are essentially saying, because this is why you all go to the extremes, right? You got to talk about murder, and you got to talk about rape, and you got all of these things that God lets ugly people exist. I don't particularly agree with that, right? But but it just is what it is.
Sorry.
It just is what it is. You know what I'm saying? But what I'm saying is, why can't I see God in the exact same light?
But
you
don't, because you're not applying to you're not applying an external standard. Like, 'cause surely your external standard isn't like, man, I want a God who hates gay people and murders babies. I want a God who tortures people forever. That's not some sort of intuitive standard you would use.
Okay, hold on a second. Do me a solid, if you would.
Mm-hmm.
Just say one thing.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That God has done that was good.
That was
just
good.
One thing.
Well, I mean, I don't think
this situation,
assuming God
in
exists.
this situation, you only assume He exists in the dark, in the darkness.
No, I'm not assuming. I'm talking about the way He's depicted in the Bible.
But they're saying that He doesn't exist, though.
No. Describing the way He's depicted.
Double Left just said, assuming God exists.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So now, because the only thing you're talking about is one or two, assuming that He exists or the way that He's depicted in the Bible. The Bible is not from cover to cover tragedy. The Bible is not from cover to cover a report of fallacy based on God and His doings. It is not.
Yeah,
right, but when you ask someone to define perfection, even if I gave you good things that your God supposedly did, right? He commanded the outlaw of murder in Exodus chapter 20. I would say I agree that murder's wrong.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
That's a very good thing.
That was a good thing.
I agree 100%. Both your God and I agree that murder is bad. Okay, but God also commanded the killing of the Amalekites. So, like when I'm setting up like a perfect thing, I would say a perfect pet never pees on my floor. Okay, and a perfect pet has 4 legs and fur, and I could have a dog that has 4 legs and fur that pees on my floor. But you know what that would make him? An imperfect pet, because he's peeing on my floor, and that was one of the criteria I had. So unless your criteria includes things like not murder but also slavery, then your God doesn't meet your qualifications of a perfect God.
And that's my criteria. Unless He meets the criteria of not murder,
not wanting murder but allowing for slavery.
Yes, being anti-murder but pro-slavery. Like surely, if you could, let's say you were God and
you can't keep calling me Shirley. I simply won't have
it. Let's say you were God, right? Would you? And there was no slavery. Would you add it?
Would I add it?
Yeah, let's say there's a world and slavery does not exist. Would you add
slavery?
You're
acting me to act as if
I'm asking you. I'm asking you. Would you add slavery to a world that it didn't exist?
No.
Okay, so
I have easier
because it does not line up. It does not line up to your measure of perfection.
Yeah, I have easier. Like if you
the world. No. Let's stay right here. He already agreed. So so if the world had slavery, it will be less perfect, right? Than if it did not.
By my standards, yes.
Yeah, so by your exactly.
I'm not God.
So okay, so then whatever God does, he's just perfect.
He is.
Okay, so Hitler, if he's a standard for his own measure, whatever he does is perfect.
Absolutely, could by his own standards to himself.
So,
Yeah.
all right, sure.
By his own
Yes.
standards and to himself. Yes,
that is the point.
yeah.
Okay, that is the point. Then it's an utterly trivial statement. Hitler is perfect. A child rapist, he is perfect because he embodies his own properties. That is what you have to get to. Like it becomes absurd, and I hate to use like horrible examples like this, but that's what we're getting at.
It's fine, but
that's
if
why I
you're
wanted to
saying
go this way.
if you're saying it's absurd, the truth be told is, by your standard, the statement is just as pointless as the conversation.
No, because so like my standard. So here, I can guarantee you.
Point?
Okay, I can
What are we
guarantee
talking about? What are we
No,
learning?
that's not the point. So no, here's the thing. No, I can guarantee you. So like, if you had if you had the guy of the Bible in his world and you had my world, I guarantee you prefer to live in mine. Guarantee you.
No, you're not God.
Yeah, but if I had my own, you would pick mine.
Yeah,
because
you're not God.
Mine wouldn't include slavery, which you already said would be opposed to. So
this is why I wanted to go here earlier. Let's say you took out a note.
But you can't say that I would pick yours just because yours would include slavery, because I believe that God is imperfect because slavery existed? No.
Okay, so like this is where I was gonna go
slavery.
earlier. This is why I wanted to go here a few minutes ago. You should have let me, because I promise it would have worked. But if you took out a notebook and at the top of it you wrote the word God, and underneath it you wrote attributes you would anticipate to find under that God, and then I compared it with attributes and things that the God of the Bible have done, do you think that your notebook of attributes you'd anticipate from a perfect God and attributes that come from the God of the Bible that you believe in would match up?
Do I think that? No, I don't think they would match up.
No. So your view of God is either I have a better picture of God, or I have a worse picture of God because the Bible's version is the one that I believe in.
No, so what you're saying is you're asking to take out a notebook, write down God without knowledge of the Bible.
Yeah, like eradicate the Bible altogether. Just throw out the Bible.
So without knowledge of the Bible. Now I'm only working off of my own desire as a man, as a human being, as a finite being. I'm only working off of my own desire. It only makes sense in this scenario for me to write down those things that are going to be pleasant to me. Does it make sense for me to write down rape? Does it make sense for me to write down murder? It doesn't make sense to write. That doesn't serve me. So it doesn't make sense to write these things down.
Doesn't serve anyone.
Nope. Yeah.
Yeah, murder's not going to help anybody out, right?
Okay. No person that we would aspire to be like would value those things.
Right.
Yet we worship a guy who does.
Yeah, so like that's what I'm saying. Like if you write down these attributes,
he values them based on allowing them to exist, is what you're saying.
No, I'm saying sometimes he ascribes rules about
he's
them.
like, purchase your slaves from the heathen among you. I mean, so he's like, purchase your slaves from the heathen among you. Like he's telling people how to go buy their slaves.
Okay.
That's straight from God. That's not God just allowing it.
A dictum of God. God commanded his people to buy slaves, but do it from the heathen nations around you. So if I were writing down in my notebook, if I wanted a God to exist and I was writing attributes of this God down, one of the things I would definitely not include, no matter how much time you gave me, would be slavery and slave ownership and rules on slavery and rules on slave ownership, right? And I definitely wouldn't include beating your slaves, like assuming that I wanted slaves in the first place, going the extra mile and putting in if you can beat them, and if so, how. But yet,
but again,
the God of the Bible did all those things.
If I am able to be God, to think like God, right? Because the thing is, I can't understand. I won't understand it at all. There is it does transcend 100%. That's the nature of God.
But all you're doing by that is passing the buck on and saying it's just God. And that's kind of the whole point. I'm saying if you were to write down what a perfect God would be, you would be like, oh, he's all loving. And he's all knowing. And he's all powerful. All these things that make a lot of sense for a being that you're claiming to be as the creator of the universe, right? You would never include things like he's also a mass murderer. He also prefers the color blue over the color red. He also only sleeps with one sock. Like, you see, you're including these things that just have no bearing on the future of the world, the way that people interact with each other, unless they're bad.
Let me understand. Okay, so let me understand. If you were given the opportunity to decide your character, you would not include all that you are right now.
No, I definitely would not.
Nor would I. I would
Really?
just definitely improvements.
Yeah,
I can
absolutely
make to
not.
myself.
There's definitely character
Okay.
improvement. I wish I was in
Okay,
better shape.
so-
I wish I was in better mental shape. I wish I was like not depressed. I wish I was like there are many character traits that I would just trade in a heartbeat. Absolutely.
Wish I had hair.
Both of us are bald. You could reflect the sun off my
Right, but
face.
what I'm
Oh
saying
boy.
is, so
I used to be a whore.
So right, but
Used to.
so you didn't learn from any of that. You didn't learn from any of that. There was no good whatsoever that came from any of that. You didn't learn from any of that. There was no positivity in that.
I cannot fathom a good in being
you could
bald.
not pass down to your son. You cannot pass down to your son any lesson, anything that
Male
you learned
pattern baldness. It's
from-
unfortunate.
Well, I don't know. Right, but what I'm saying is, you to speaking specifically to you. And actually, you Josh, because Double F. I don't know if you got kids or not, but
I don't.
What I'm saying
Fortunately.
is, okay. so there's nothing that you learn, Josh, from being who you are. There's nothing. There's no good that has come from being who you are all of who you are.
Yeah, sure, but sure. Yes, there's I learned some things from being who I am, from being on my mistakes. But if I could change the things and just have that wisdom without making a mistake, then I'd definitely choose that.
If you can change the thing without
if I could just get the wisdom without making a mistake.
But by the way, like changing your character, like being wiser not to make that mistake to begin with. Congratulations, you now are a better person because you're wise enough not to commit the fallacy of the mistake to begin with.
Okay, so that's what I'm trying to. So let me understand. So you're saying that the sought after situation is absolutely. I guess I'm not necessarily saying I would pursue the negative, but I don't see the negative as being only negative. You know what I mean? I don't see the negative as being, there's too much good that has come from it. There's too much strength
it's not
that has come from
only...
it. There's too much development that has come from it. There's too much truth that has come from it. So I cannot discount those, those things as only those things.
I'm not discounting them as all negative, but what I'm saying is if you could get the value without the bad thing from it, then sure. Like, I mean, that's like if I could go through some traumatic experience and then become a stronger person as a result of it, it'd be better if I was just became that stronger person without the trauma. There'd be no reason to add that.
What would the strength be weighed against? Where would it come from?
You just put it
other
in there. I think you were
resources.
I think you were asking like, is there something that we would do to like improve ourselves? I'm like,
For instance,
No,
like
I'm
me
saying
just
you
having
would
more
100
motivation would be better than me getting in a car accident that motivated me to live a healthier life. Like me just having enough motivation to live a healthy lifestyle to begin with would be better than that. Because then I don't have to experience the trauma of a car accident to turn my life around. I would just have a better life because I had the necessary motivation to live it to begin with.
Okay, true enough. So, but the reality is that these things do occur. So I should then only deal with my negatives because I cannot turn them into positives because they're not. I can only. That's it. So I should just base on my
No,
negatives.
of course not. Of
No,
course
I mean
not.
the whole point of the
this is-
list and the argument was to point out that, like, if you were an omniscient and omnipotent being, I wouldn't need to include a car accident to turn my life around. I could just give me the motivation to be a healthier person. You see what I'm saying? Like, if I was perfect, I wouldn't need to include things that were going to be negative to lead you to a positive. Like, I could say, because this person, got sick, they came out on the other side and they turned their life around and got to be a better, healthier person. I could just give them, if I was omnipotent, the motivation and desire to live a healthy lifestyle to begin with.
So the perfection. So I mean, because I guess what I'm saying is, what exactly is the argument if you can come to the same outcome?
Well, I don't have to get shot or get in a car wreck to live a healthy lifestyle in one.
You don't. But if you ultimately live the healthy lifestyle, then to the individual, because there's too many. The thing is, there's too many accounts in which an individual actually appreciates the struggle because of the strength that it develops. I mean, and so there are some instances where you just have, I guess, cats maybe just have the strength. Definitely.
Yeah, so I mean, the question is, if you were a perfect being, or you were describing these characteristics of a perfect being, wouldn't you say that he would be wise enough to know that he could just impart the necessary motivation and or things without including trauma in order to do so? Like, I shouldn't have to take away, like give you the example, the story of Job. I shouldn't have to take away everything that you have to make a point. Especially when I'm making a gamble against Satan.
Yeah, I'm gonna say the point was to win a bet.
But like, I shouldn't have to do all that. Like, I'm a perfect being. I should just be able to point out that I'm perfect.
That was an awful story.
But in the perfection, I can do that, whether I should have to or not. In my perfection, I can.
But you would say that, in all aspects of what is perfection, you would say that torture and murdering of families is probably not included. But that's exactly what happens to Job. Like, God literally allows his entire family to get killed. His land, his animals, everything gets taken away from the dude. And you would say that, like, essentially that's torture, especially since God is just doing it to win a bet.
Okay, all right. So what it seems like, what it seems like is happening here is that we're going in circles, and we're finding just creative and intelligent ways to make the exact same point.
Yeah.
So what's happening is we are saying, it's tangible versus intangible. It is faith versus not having faith. It is us saying, I'll pray for you. I'll pray for your souls, and you all saying,
we're all saying, here's the cure for cancer.
And you're saying,
congratulations.
And you're saying, no, it's like us saying, well, we'll pray for your souls, and you're saying, who the hell are you praying to? and then we say, I thought you didn't believe in hell. And then you saying, shut the hell up. So I mean, like, it's just like going back and forth. It's a fun tennis game, but at a certain point, it's like, if we're not going to, I think the only way, the best way to try to figure out to get to some type of, I don't even know if we can even reach a common ground here. But
I want to give you last word, by the way.
It's not necessary. It's not necessary to reach a common ground.
Yeah, but I think that the best way when you're having a debate, like a healthy debate, I think it's oftentimes is to be open-minded to what the other person is saying or the other party is saying. And I think that's what it is for me. That's why, as you know very well on commentary, I live in the gray area. I'm very open to what they're saying. And the thing is this, even though I disagree with where you all, with where you land as far as not believing in God. All of the points that you made, I believe, are very valid. But as valid as they are, it does not outweigh my faith. It does not outweigh, my belief in the way that I came up. For me, I do have a tangible explanation for the existence of God. I can do this and touch me. That's tangible. Because
that's the existence of you.
No. What I'm saying is, I believe that he woke me up.
No.
I believe that he created me. And that is my tangible explanation. When I look at my child, I believe that he's a gift from God to me. So that right there is tangible for me. But if you don't agree with that, everything that you said, I understand.
Yeah,
I want to leave you with this
completely
quote.
get it.
I want you
I
guys to have the
understand.
last word by all means, but I want to leave you with this quote because I think it's a really good one and it's something to reflect on. And then you guys can have the last word. You can talk. I'm done. I'm done on my part at least. I'll gladly stick around and listen. But and it's a quote from Matt Dillahunty, and he says that I want to believe as many true things and as few false things as possible. And I really, really like that quote because it kind of encapsulates the skeptic mind. And you can take on that and kind of chew on it and think it over. You don't have to respond to it. It's just something to think about because that's my life. That's what I want to do.
I like that. I love that quote. And I agree with it. But what I also understand is that we can look at the exact same thing and have two different truths.
Well, I don't really see in that quote. I want to believe as many. What is that? I want to say it again, if you would.
Yeah, no worries. It says I want to believe as many true things and as few false things as possible.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, it seemed to me that believe, truth is truth, right? So, I don't know. I guess it is definitely something to chew on because you want to believe as many true things, and basically it seems to me more like knowledge. I want to know as much as I can. I want to have as many answers as I can possibly gather.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's bifold. It's I want to believe things that are true, and I don't want to believe things that are false. And if I cannot determine them, I should not make a belief upon them. I shouldn't make a belief stance on them. That's it. That was all.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that quote holds true for all four of us. We just have different truths. I think we just have different truths, but it holds true for all of us.
You see that face? I don't know if you're watching. Did you see his face?
Who? My face? Or?
No.
No, Triple A. Yeah, I saw his face.
You saw his face?
I saw his face.
All right. Yeah, just making sure you saw it. Like he wants to go into it so bad he don't know what to do because we promised you last word. I just wanted to let you know his face. If you watched it, go back and watch that second.
We're gonna have y'all back.
I don't have faith in what his face was saying.
I can tell you, you shouldn't. You shouldn't have faith in that face because I'm telling you, I know where it was at.
Well, I think it was pretty dope. It definitely, and I ain't gonna front, it definitely makes me want to, read, more, dig more. But for me, more along the lines of affirmation and confirmation. You know what I mean? Because you can believe whatever you want to believe. It's not my job to convert or to influence. Even as far as I'm concerned, I believe in God, and that's how I'm going to live under that particular umbrella. But I think it's dope to talk about it. I think it's dope to get into it and chop it up. And the dopest thing about it is to have contrast without conflict. To me, that's the definition of respecting one another. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I appreciate that. It was a dope show. That's what's up. And maybe next time we can see Double F because I would like to have been able to read his face a couple times.
You said earlier you didn't like ugly people, so I didn't want to down to move.
Hey,
My bad.
hey, because you know the saying, God don't like ugly.
Oh yeah, maybe that was the issue the whole time.
Well, I apologize to all of the ugly people.
Hey, and
Apology
hold
not
on.
accepted.
Before we go, I would like to also point out God don't like ugly is not in the Bible. That is something that humans made up. Okay. And I think it's stupid.
I don't know. I think there's a verse in the
God
Bible
does
somewhere.
like ugly.
It says that like he doesn't like the deformed.
Does it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I can point that out to you guys. I forget where it is. I have to look up the exact passage, but I could totally bring it up for you. But yeah, it definitely says that like God would cast him out.
I feel like we all have deformities, whether mentally, physically, emotionally. We all have
I
deformities.
got like a dent inside of my head right here.
Yo,
I got a dip in my head.
Right.
So.
Like when I try to shave it, there'll be like hair still right there. And so like I have to specifically get that right.
say what you want. I'm gorgeous by my own standards.
Where
There we go, double F. There
Yeah,
you
there you go. See, there's no issues there. There's no issues. But nah,
See, I was the
dope,
white
yo.
guy.
I appreciate this. Yeah,
Hold on. Is that your deformity?
Yeah. Well, I wish I was darker. I won't lie. I'm so white. I get moonburned.
wow. Wow, that I did not know that was a thing.
Yeah. Get that from my mom. We'd be pasty.
But nah, this was dope, y'all. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you coming
Yeah,
on.
yeah,
I think we've met. I think we've met the whole fam. But yeah.
I'm sure if you've been up the street, because I only live 8 houses down from She, so if you've been up there,
yeah,
I would imagine we
spent the
have met
night
at
at her
some
place a
point.
few times.
A word? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so probably so. But nonetheless, yeah, this was super dope.
Yeah, well, appreciate you
Appreciate
coming
you guys.
on.
Thank you for coming on, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Anything you want to plug on the way out?
Yo,
What's that?
Anything you want to plug on the way out? Your own show?
with all these bald people, with all these bald guys, we need some hair plugs.
Nah, well, I mean, we already talked about quotes and mirrors from the beginning, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
We already talked about quotes and mirrors. Other than that,
I mean, we
you
can
know what?
plug
Boom.
all the Relic Media for real.
Yeah.
Now, I'm always going to take an opportunity to plug my wife, Brown Baby 321 Publishing, where she has published 3 children's books concerning my son and him having Down syndrome. So feel free to go out to that website, brownbaby321.com, and check those out. She is
I'll add it to the
advocate.
description.
Yeah.
What's
Yeah,
it called?
she is
Baby
Brown
sent me the
Baby
link already?
321.
Brown Baby 321. All right.
Yep. .com. Yep. She's
Not only
I know that had nothing to do with the show, but it got, I plug my wife.
All good.
I plug,
hey, not only that, the books are amazing, but the boy that the books are about is even more amazing.
Oh, yeah.
I'm telling you.
we got 3 of them out right now. We got A Friend Like Nine. We got First Day of School. And we got French Fries and Blue. Are the 3 books coming out right now? That are out right now and available for purchase. We got a coloring book coming, and the 4th book is also coming by the end of this year. So I take every opportunity to plug what she's doing. Brown Baby 321 is super dope. She's an amazing advocate for my son, and we love her for it. So yeah, that's all I got right away.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, we'll include the link and go ahead. Sorry.
And Relic Media, everything that we got going on Relic Media now that's debatable. Quotes and mirrors, the Rorschach test, the Goddess in the Bruja, the King's Lair, the Why Behind the Why, all of these podcasts under Relic Media. We're trying to do some amazing things. Now that's debatable. I just want to say to the 2 of you, I absolutely love the show and everything that you all are doing. It is so intelligent. It makes you think. It's one of those things where you can respectfully disagree. That's one of the things that I love, because you all have had a few topics where I just didn't agree with you, but but I didn't lose 1 ounce of respect for you, even in disagreeing with what you said.
And you still want to listen.
Yeah, exactly. You still want to listen. You want to keep coming back.
Yeah.
And I had a conversation with somebody the other day about Relic Media. And I was telling them, I said, one of the things that I absolutely love about Relic Media is that every single person on here is a shark. And you can jump into this pool of sharks if you want to. But you are not going to make it out unscathed. I mean, because everybody here is absolutely amazing. And I just love what you guys are doing, man. It is amazing. It is amazing. I love it.
I don't judge you for not believing in God. I promise.
Yes.
I don't know. I've heard the term
Only
righteous.
God can judge me.
I've heard the term righteous indignation before.
Only God can judge me, so no one
God.
can.
So no one can.
All right, I got you. All right, well, y'all gotta sign off. Y'all normally do. Or what's happening?
Nah, we just let you guys have last word, and that's it. Tell people what's happening next week sometime.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. If we got the last word, God bless.
That's the end, guys. We'll see you next week.